But do we have enough people? Anything? Do we know if anyone's on Zoom?
There's nobody on Zoom.
Tim is on his way.
Okay, good. And Tiger's in a meeting over there.
Yep.
But Tiger's.
Ex officio.
Members.
Ex officio. Yeah.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here on behalf of Kiwanis Park. And first thing I'd like to start off with is a roll call. If we could go from your left to right.
Yeah, Amy, we're here.
George Bennington.
Tim Klimple will be here soon. He's dropping a child off at school. Hank Green.
John Howe.
And we have a lot of stuff to cover, so I want to move fairly quickly. The first thing, though, is I'd like to have some acknowledgement of Keith Ritchie's contribution to this committee. And George, could you just say a few words?
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. This is something that. Oh, sorry. So see red.
Keep pushing.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Something that John Howe wrote, but I'd like to share with you all about Keith. I'd like to take a moment to remember Keith Ritchie, a valued member of the Parks and Recs Commission who passed away suddenly. Keith wasn't just a commissioner, he was truly part of the life of our department. He didn't just help guide Parks and Rec, he lived it. Whether it was tennis, paddle, yoga, fitness classes at Lapham, Keith was there, using and supporting the very programs and facilities he helped oversee. His presence was constant, his support genuine, and his enthusiasm contagious. Keith believed in the importance of community wellness, of staying active and engaged, and he led by example. His insight, passion, and personal involvement made a real difference, and we are grateful for the time we had with him. He will be deeply missed, not only as a colleague, but as a neighbor and a friend.
Thank you, George. Thank you. There's been a leadership change after the passing of Keith Ritchie. Tim Klimple is co-chair, and I'm the co-chair. My name is Hank Green. Number 4, approval of the meetings. Do we have a motion to approve?
I can't.
I'll motion. I'll motion.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
I didn't see them. I haven't seen them, so I can't. So we
I
can
wasn't
wait.
here. I was overseas. Am I allowed to second?
Yeah. Or just wait till the next meeting.
I second. We'll wait till the next meeting.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Okay. At the last meeting, there was a lot of talk about data gathering, and I just wanted to go over what's happening in that regard. Keith, I think you and Bill, you two folks are going to be talking to a lot of folks this summer at Kiwanis Park. Is that correct? Do I have that right?
You have to have them
Come
up
up.
to the mic. Yeah.
Oh, and you have to, if you want to.
They're turned on.
Yeah, the short answer is, yeah, that is our intention.
Pull the
Pull the
mic.
mic in front of you.
Right. Yeah, that's what we'd like to do this summer. How about it? Okay, good.
Gathering anecdotal evidence in terms of how people use the park, what they think of the park, et cetera.
Yes, and also the written feedback, which we requested, some months ago and so on. So anything that's coming in by way of comment, we're really anxious to read and book into the program.
That sounds great. Thank you for that. We're also going
Thank
to.
you. Back.
Yes, please, Amy.
Yeah, Deanna was going to include it in her newsletter updates, her monthly letter updates. I can't recall if it was in the last one, but I knew they were composing some language to get people to know that this committee is up and running if they had any input. So I'm sorry, I don't know the status of that.
That's good. Good.
But just in terms of how do you get the information out to everybody on that?
Also, I think the Y and the Girl Scouts, I believe, will be collecting information. Is that right in terms of the Girl Scouts? Or?
Well, we already do have, I think we gave you the list of our usage.
That's part of it. Okay. And also the Parks and Recreation in terms of department, in terms of the past usage and general usage, will be collecting information for us also, just in terms of how much the park is used and what people are using it for. It's my understanding. The next thing, number 6, there's been a lot of questions about the flood zone. and what it means to Kiwanis, how it can be addressed, what are the limitations of addressing it. And Keith and Bill have been very kind to just give us a really just, nice summary of really where we stand with the flood zone.
Well, we've talked about it, so I'll let Bill, give you an update.
Sure. So as we know, we have the main river system coming right through Kiwanis there. And with Kiwanis and with that river system and the associated wetlands, there's several components to that. There's when it comes to flooding. So there's a flood zone, 100-year flood zone that we have to respect, and it covers a good portion of the park. So we're collecting the data on where that flood zone extent is. And then there's also a floodway, which is a little different than the flood zone. So the flood zone is an area that could get flooded in a major storm event, 100-year or bigger, larger. But it doesn't necessarily mean a lot of velocity to it in that flood zone area. But then the floodway, which is a little bit narrower, means the river itself rises up and has a significant velocity to it. So there's a floodway component, there's the flood zone, and any work that is proposed within the flood zone itself, we are cognizant of that we cannot change the flood zone. So, for example, if the grade is raised in one area in a flood zone, it has to be lessened in the same exact amount in another area so that it doesn't push the flood zone onto a neighboring property. Essentially, that's the gist of it. It doesn't mean you can't do anything in the flood zone. Certainly you can. We just have to be responsible and respectful of that. And then the other part of it is understanding that the flood zone is always going to be there. We have to plan for it. We should accept it. And anything we design or gets constructed or developed within a flood zone is resilient to be able to withstand being flooded, essentially. So that's how we're looking at it, and that's how we'll proceed. And so once we have all the data gathered, we can share that. And I would think that after the master planning phase too, before any actual work were to start, an updated survey would clearly define those flood limits.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Can I just raise something so we understand the relationships of everybody working in this effort? So I know you guys are kind of in the master plan designing. Have we determined, is there, because from the board of selectmen's position, I'm not aware of this, John, I don't know if you're, this is just a subcommittee to investigate, highest and best use of Kiwanis Park, getting input from people. But I am not aware of if we are have funds to actually engage in an employment with Simpson and Co. So I don't know where that stands. And again, I'm not part of Park and Recs, so I don't know. So
right now, we have not requested, and we do not have any money budgeted for the master plan.
Right. So I just think you all need to, now, you can request it, but I just think that's important as we move forward in terms of kind of everyone's role in this community. I don't want people, getting over the skis and feeling like, they had an arrangement. So we got to figure that out.
Okay.
I think so.
Should we have it on the agenda for the next meeting to make a proposal for?
You mean the commission meeting or the subcommittee meeting?
Or does this need to go to the commission?
I think you should discuss it at the commission level.
Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe by then we will be able to give you, estimates.
Right.
Yeah. And where? But I'm always
Money
where
would-
I sit. We're always like, where's the money? Type
Exactly.
of thing. Because there's a
But
lot
right
of
now, there is no money
allocated.
allocated
Okay.
for this, or it's any place in the budget.
Right,
There hasn't been any request or anything.
Right, but places, it could be, what the Park and Rec generates and, surplus funds. There's places, but it has to be Park and Rec determining if that's how they want to use their funds, I think.
We'll put it on our next agenda for Wednesday, July 9th. And John, you and I will work on the actual proposal.
Okay.
You know,
Sounds good.
how we do that from there. Okay, thank
I
you.
think that would be the first step.
Yeah.
Sure. Yep, absolutely.
And Hank, can I step back to, I think, the last point where we talk about deliverables? Okay, so rather than just say, yeah, we're gonna get these deliverables, I mean, a lot's gotta be John Howe and group, because I think the idea from the last meeting, correct me if I'm wrong, is trying to really understand how the park is used in its busy time,
Mhm.
which is summer. And we do have information from the Girl Scouts, and we do have some information that Keith put together. It's a little bit old, 2022. So I think we had talked about, if we will be able, as we go through this, have a better idea how many people are using the beach.
We've changed a little bit on how we're checking passes and how we're recording passes.
Right.
Because we've had some problems there.
Right, because when you get a pool pass, does it automatically give you Kiwanis?
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
You
so-
purchase a pool pass, you automatically go to.
Yeah, but we don't necessarily know how many people do, right? So.
Well, yes,
Do we-
every pass should be checked.
Okay.
We had some problems last year and the year
They
before.
always checked mine, so they did a good job.
And this year we're doing double checks. So
Okay.
they should be scanning in with their pass or looked up manually, but we're also keeping a paper log.
Okay, so that'll be great.
That will give us much better, much more accurate information.
But some of the other things that's used a lot is, kind of the passive use, the trails and stuff like that. And I know with like Waveney, Waveney's a much bigger thing. During COVID, we were able to track that. How do we get a sense, of how other things are used? Like, for instance, the basketball court, it's used a lot or not? I don't know, rather than someone sitting there from the park department saying, oh, somebody used it.
Well, there is the one way, there's some companies out there
Mhm.
who like to sell the data, but they're tracking cell phones.
Mhm.
And then they put it into some logarithm thing to figure out that, there's probably 2 people per every cell phone or whatever. I don't know what they do.
Yeah.
But they've been able to tell us with a demo with us wanting us to purchase their service, like how many people probably went to the fireworks.
Mhm.
That 250,000 people went into Waveney Park over a year.
Yeah, that might be a
Right.
little bit of overkill for
It
Kiwanis.
probably,
Tim.
And also in terms of data, I think we talked about this last meeting, and I apologize, I didn't see the minutes. I think you were going to try to get together. I know that it's a bit of work to do the beach, but I think you're going to pull together the costs.
Yep.
Because
I haven't.
yeah, so because that'll be, if it's, because I know the splash pad idea was, generated from you guys, but it's like, it is our town beach. And so what does it cost us to keep it up? And
Yep.
I know it's work and stuff like that. So maybe for the next meeting, if you could give us, I know it's not broken down your budget,
Right.
kind of how. that-
Kiwanis is broken out as the park itself.
Yeah.
But no, there's some shared costs, so to speak. The
Sure.
Parks Department rakes the beach.
Right. And
But we can come up with.
Yeah. we're not going to not look at people hours or man hours, but just kind of like,
Chlorine, et
yeah,
cetera.
and maybe the amount of time in that, then we
Mm-hmm.
can impute from that. So. Okay. So,
Sure.
okay, is that all right? Sorry.
No, that's great. No, that's perfect. We just want to look at some of just go over the key elements that we're recommending that the consultants put into a master plan for Kiwanis Park. And the first one, John, I'm going to ask you to maybe just talk a couple of words. John has recommended we remove possibly one of the 2 riverside sheds. Could you just give your thinking on that,
Yeah,
John?
even without being a master plan.
They're sad.
One shed was for parks maintenance, recreation maintenance. The other was when there was a tenant in the house. And when the tenant moved out, they weren't able to move the shed. So basically it became town property. I recommend we get rid of one of them. I'd like to evaluate them and figure out which one is in better condition. That's all.
The second one is used by who?
Right now, we store a little bit of stuff in both of them, but we don't need both.
Yeah. Do you need one?
We need one. We definitely need one. And some people would look at, there's a 3rd shed there. That one is where the pool chlorine is and the pump controls are.
Yes, you need that.
That one we definitely have to have.
Okay.
We need 2 sheds.
Mhm.
basically.
Oh. Sorry. Okay.
All the other
oh,
buildings,
sorry.
we did do that walk around, because there's a lot of buildings that are used just seasonally, which I was surprised by the YMCA. but they're used and they're in good shape. I mean, I know the YMCA uses the Merit B. There's that other one.
The one that's across the pond per se,
Yeah.
that is used by the YMCA. It's actually, well, they had that one built
Okay.
many years ago and they maintain it.
Okay,
So
great.
for their camp.
But nothing else in your view of the structures they're all in okay shape and would need to be removed?
I'm gonna say they're in okay shape. The apartment and the locker rooms that the Y uses mainly are dated.
The locker room, is in the apartments attached?
The apartment, that's all one building, yes.
Right.
Yep.
Right. But they use it for like an office, right?
They
During,
use the apartment for office space. Yes, it's part of their lease.
so dated but functional and
Right now it's functional.
cleaning up.
The roof isn't leaking.
Okay.
You know,
And that brought us into the second bullet about all the other structures. John, you feel all the other structures should stay? And I guess you said that the apartment that you were just talking about and the lockers, that's under the auspices of the Y. Is that correct?
yes, we share it a little bit. It's a town building, so if the roof was leaking, that would fall on us, but the
Oh.
Y has responsibility to do a lot of the maintenance on the apartment and everything. We turn the water on for it. You know, that type of stuff. The town pays the water bill that's used, which is minimal.
And for the master plan, are those buildings inviolable? I mean, they have to stay there?
The locker rooms, the Y definitely needs to hold their summer camp. If, you know, they've been working on, I think they might be in the last year of a 3-year lease
Yeah,
they
we have
have
3
with the
years.
town.
Yeah.
So I'm not exactly, I'm pretty sure this is the last year.
The third bullet, there's been a lot of suggestions for some kind of attractive concession stand, at the beachside pavilion. Probably with some kind of snack machines, et cetera, vending machines. Does anybody have any comments on that? Or nope. And I
do.
yeah, no, please.
I just think one of the things, if you do start having concessions, whether it's a vending machine, I'm sure that's like an outsourced third party. How about from maintenance and trash pickup and stuff like that? Is that gonna, I mean, because that's always an issue, like trash. you know,
Trash is
so-
always an issue.
Yeah.
And it would potentially be more of an issue. There is one trash can there, except, the Y deals with their own garbage and they bring in a dumpster, which the one trash can is dumped by the highway department.
Is it a daily thing?
I doubt it's daily.
Okay.
I'd say probably a couple times a week.
Okay, but so that's something, if in fact, I don't know, would it be the whole park and recs would have to approve putting vending machines in probably, right? But I think that would have to be,
We've
A modification.
explored several options.
Yeah.
The issue has always been the critical mass.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't have the mass that like the pool does. And so to get food trucks or vendors and stuff like that, it to justify the cost.
I get that,
towards,
yeah.
Would be tricky. But if we're certainly keeping a very open mind. If there's some other solutions that could be found, we're amenable to it.
When I think that's the thought of a vending machine would
Sure.
be,
Mhm.
so, okay, whose job is it to investigate vending machines? It's we got, somebody's got to take it. No, I'm not saying John, it could be one of us, honestly, so, do we, who might be a source? Does the school have vending machines? Do the schools in the high school have vending machines?
They do have some.
So they might be a source to ask.
Right,
for.
who their supplier
Yeah, I'm
is,
not necessarily throwing it on you, John, because, if we're part of a committee, some of us should raise our hands. But so, if you want to, that's fine, or I can, or somebody else can, but,
I could contact a couple people in the school.
yeah, we have to see if it's, how would it work? We ideally like it to be no cost, right? That we would just plug them in, right? But I don't know how it works at school, but they would know.
There's probably some type of a contract, I would think, the Board of Education has with them. And then obviously this would be seasonal. They would just be there while the pool is open.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so whoever the vending machine company is would have to be amenable to that.
Yeah, exactly. So, we could talk about it. We might as well see if it's viable and before we
Right,
talk about it.
exactly.
So,
In terms of the master plan, parking, we just really need a, well-considered, parking schema. as well as, pick up and drop off. And it seems to me from the previous meetings that we've had on this committee, that's always been a source of, concern. Can we improve the parking at Waveney? And at Kiwanis, excuse me, if I only had a brain. Okay.
But that
Thank you.
really has to do with the why, right? The why is where we have the issue with parking, right? In terms of the pickup, drop off and the flow.
That's
right?
exactly it.
So that's a camp thing. So, I think a deeper dive with Margaret and crew on that would be,
Right.
I mean, because for the rest of it, it's kind of light use and there's tons of parking.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
George, when the Exchange Club has their Christmas tree, program, is parking ever an issue there?
It is, and because most people, we put up the tree stands and the paved area, people park on the grass or dirt area. We haven't had an issue.
Okay, that's good.
The preschool is any different. I mean, it's mostly pick up and drop off, but the Y is, I guess, somewhat similar to that. So
You're right, the preschool should be in on that one too, yeah. I remember when we did the walkthrough,
Mhm.
we were talking how to use that space and, we really need it as it is. It's a little tricky because kids have to walk some distance, but that's something I think is a drill down with the
The
why.
why. Mhm.
With the preschool, in the loop.
Yeah, the preschool does do a drop off through there, and the cars that are parked there are their teachers that park there during the thing. So I think it's more drop off issue with the preschool because they line up at, it's opening at, I'm gonna say 8 o'clock, and everybody's there waiting.
Is preschool open in the summer? Do they have summer programs? I wonder if they overlap at all. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't think
I'm
so,
not
but
aware.
I'm not 100%
Yeah.
sure.
We should find out.
Yeah.
Next is just a number of people have proposed that we should in some way try to enhance the river as a feature. And, possibly, have benches by the river or picnic tables and Keith and Bill, after you're talking about the flood zone, now I'm not so sure, but I'm wondering if, the master plan should see if there's some way to, make that area not just something that's behind the buildings,
Right.
but something that people might want to really, walk along and sit along and enjoy.
We think it has great potential, yeah.
Well, you do, great. That's very good.
Is there any potential to tie in with the Beautification League or Pollinators Pathway, or, as we get into that, kind of Planet New Canaan? I mean, I'm not trying to volunteer people for stuff, but they do kind of focus on that, the whole natural landscape and, I don't know if I don't know a lot about the science about riverbeds, but
Right.
it could be we should probably plant the right stuff if we plant anything.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, it definitely would go through wetlands too.
Sure.
There'd be some type of permit process,
Right.
depending on what's decided to happen.
We've also have had a number of suggestions to just enhance the entrance. And I agree with that. I don't know what can be done, but it's just something to make it look a little grander, if that's the right word, when you come into Kiwanis Park, like you're going into a park. Mead, has done a great job, with that. And
But they have that arch in place.
yes, they do. Yeah. So if there's a inexpensive way to just enhance, when the entrance to the park, I think that'd be great if it can be done, and if it's affordable. We have to reserve space, as you know, for the community garden. We're assuming that is going to happen. People have also asked for improvements on the trail system. And I think the trail system is pretty good right now as it is. I guess I guess there are ways to make some parts of it a little smoother, a little easier access. And we were just wondering if you could look at that. And people have also, asked this committee whether the trail system could be extended. So it's not just in the back there, but, comes around possibly to where the river is in the back of the park. And again, if the master plan, I think should at least maybe consider that. Okay. We mentioned basketball. So a couple of the folks who were here at a prior meeting said basketball courts are used in the summer, for pickup games. And the people do come here in the summer for pickup games. I think that's great. I would love to see more pickup games, maybe even some leagues, outdoor leagues, after basketball leagues. And the court is not in terrible shape, but it's also not in great shape. Is that fair?
It's getting towards being in terrible shape. It has some fairly large cracks and everything.
Yeah.
That has been in our capital budget request for a number of years. And one reason why we're sitting here today is that the proper place for a basketball court at Kiwanis, that type of thing, similar to the splash pad. The Board of Selectmen said that we should have a plan, not just put it there.
And John,
And the plan should be driven by community interest, right?
Yeah.
So again, has anyone, I don't know, is there a groundswell that we need more basketball? I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's,
Anecdotal.
They will come.
will they? It depends where stuff is
yes, I think you have a
sometimes.
good court there.
Yeah.
People will discover it.
I love pickup stuff. I think it's
Very,
great.
very quickly and playing, in the evening or late afternoon basketball outside is a dream.
If
It's
you
wonderful.
resurface the court and the word gets around that's resurfaced, people will come. Because the court's already there, been there for a while, but it's resurfaced.
The one issue is to be aware of is during the Y camp times, that's part of their camp area.
Right.
So it wouldn't be able to be used
Yes.
during the summer while the camp's there.
Which is what, 8 weeks, right, total? And
It's a very
after they
short
go,
period.
yeah.
Yep.
And John, you mentioned just now the splash pad. That's a great segue, because that's our next item. Could you just talk to us about your vision for the splash pad?
Okay. Splash pads are one of the hottest things for younger children, which we have a lot in town, and that's who mainly uses the park. Not only, but mainly uses the park. Splash pads have a ton of different, they have a lot of different water features, anything from water squirting up out of the ground, a big bucket all of a sudden dumping water on top of the kids. It works as a swimming pool. You're recirculating and chlorinating the water like you would a swimming pool. But it's a place where little kids are able to walk around and enjoy the water without the fear of swimming, etc. So,
But it would you'd get rid of the beach then, right?
well, part of the, my thought was, yes, get rid of the beach, but very quickly talking to Bill and Keith, since that is in the floodway or flood zone, we wouldn't be able to remove the beach because that's basically a place for water retention if the river came up, if we had a substantial amount of rain. So that's not feasible. I'd like a splash pad in town. Is this the place to put it? I'm not sure.
And do we know, like the cost on a splash pad, not the design, the cost of a
You're
splash
probably
pad
looking up around $1 million.
to build it?
Yes.
And then maintaining, outdoor structures. don't
Maintaining
last forever,
another swimming pool along with all the,
cost.
yes.
$1 million?
It seems to me that if this is something that there was demand for, that perhaps it could get rolled into the pool enterprise fund.
Mhm.
I'm just thinking, because pool enterprise fund is set up in such a way that's self-sustaining, and now that the debt is basically rolled off of it,
Yep.
It is producing net revenue, which of course we set aside for that to maintain the pool.
Yep.
But it's similar, and I don't know how it's the ordinance is set up around it, but it is kind of, that would make sense if you did anything like that, to do it kind of within the enterprise fund, or maybe.
And maybe even in the location of the pool,
Perhaps, yeah. perhaps.
John has millions hidden in his budget. We'll be able to find it. So,
Millions.
I don't think
I'm gonna have to ask Hank where it is.
We're going to call on John a second thing because also on the agenda, one of the things we want, one of the key elements we want to discuss is possibly for the park to have a placeholder for a community center for younger children. And this is something that, as John has said, might not happen in years and years and years. But, but possibly Kiwanis might be a good place if a community center is ever built. That might be the place for it. John, could you talk about your vision for the community center, please?
Really, this is the first time socializing this idea of having a community center different than Lapham, something that would be more for the younger kids. Presently, we in the rec department do not have any indoor space where we can run programs. So what happens is we don't have gym space because the Y rents all the gym space in the school system. So with no indoor facility, it's tough for us to run, even running younger adult fitness programs, et cetera. So, for us in our summer camp alone, we had over 100 kids waitlisted for summer camp because we're limited on how much indoor space we have for the kids on a rainy day. Thunderstorm comes in, where can they go? Presently, they go into Waveney House. So again, no gym, no basketball, no adult fitness, indoor racket sports such as pickleball. It limits us on weekend and evening options. Waveney House can be used for some, but most of the time that's being rented out. The flexibility during inclement weather. Not that you're going to pay for a community center this way, but the revenue opportunities could be, birthday parties, private rentals, indoor events, and eventually that would lead to long-term financial ability. A community center like this would be a hub for the entire community with our recreation program. I'm not saying this
Are you
definitely
thinking like a boys and girls club? Is that what you envision?
similar to that. The difference is Lapham Community Center is for adults.
Mhm.
And so we do some programs there, but very limited. We're limited in space, time, and everything. So it limits us on what we can do for programs.
So like a gym, some areas that people can, kids. can run
Ultimately, it would
around
be great to have a
a field
gym
house.
and some classroom type spaces
Right,
where you
like a
could be
field
set
house,
up
yeah.
different ways.
Okay.
Yes. So
Good
I'm
idea.
not saying it should be at Kiwanis, and I'm not saying that this is something that's going to happen in the near future, but I think it would be good to start being discussed.
Right.
This is different than a teen center where kids go and hang out. This is where
Which didn't work.
programs,
Yeah.
which didn't work. This is where we'd have actual programs.
Give me an idea. Who has something like this? Give me a town that has something like this. Because what we have in this town is we got schools, we got tons and tons of kids, parents putting themselves in a lot of these for-profit or not for, the arts, we know the travel sports, we all know that. So what need is that filling that isn't already?
Well, right now, we're not filling programs that we could run. Oh, we're not hosting programs that we could run.
Your question's a great one. I'll do the research on that. Let me do some Google search about municipalities that have kind of field houses.
Yeah,
And
and because we have a lot,
Centers.
Boys and Girls Club there is pretty amazing if you've been there. You can see it from
Yeah,
95.
Right.
quite a few towns do.
My town does.
We have two.
Do you?
Yeah, we have two.
Very big one with gym space and a pool, et cetera.
But do you have a Y? Your town?
We don't have a Y, but we have a town pool that's enclosed.
Okay,
So we have that. We have basically two. We have a yellow house and we've got a park and rec center. So the Parks and Recreation Center, but it's right adjacent to the high school, adjacent to our largest park. So,
so
actually.
was
what
it
town
built
is it?
for
That's
that?
Cheshire.
Was it built for that purpose?
Built specifically for recreation. Yeah.
Town, both have them.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting. Unlike what we have is like, we have a mansion that we're trying to purpose into municipal functions.
Yes. Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
So I know it's sort of like vaporware, but if the master plan, you know, if it's appropriate, it may not, I don't know if it's appropriate to be in Kiwanis, but if the master plan can have a placeholder for such a community center, you know, if that's possible, you know, it's something, you know, to be considered, I guess.
Yeah.
And possibly rejected, but at least considered. Okay. One thing that's not on the agenda here, but we were asked at the last commission meeting to discuss it, is the town asked us to keep an open mind about having a, what was described as an NHL style ice rink in Kiwanis. Now, Kiwanis is not being targeted specifically. They're looking at other school, you know, at other parks and even some schools. So it's, you know, this is not where it's a fait accompli. It has to be at Kiwanis. But the question is, could a, you know, they want a permanent concrete platform for this. So it's pretty much an all-season rink, as it were. Could a 200-foot by 85-foot rink be accommodated by Kiwanis without compromising the integrity of the park and without compromising the integrity of the neighbors who are, you know, around the park, who are so close to the park. And so that's just a question. And the commission, you know, said we would keep an open mind on this and consider it for, you know, and consider it for Kiwanis, as well as, you know, all the other parks. So if we could just include that.
We have talked about this for decades.
I know.
Decades.
We know this erupted again, as it were.
Yeah, no, and it's, you know, any of these major improvements would require a big chunk of money. And in my past life, I did a lot of financings for municipal facilities. And rinks don't work unless they're 100% paid for. Like someone donates the whole rink. You might possibly be able to break even from operations. If you're just talking about the fiscal aspect of it, I'm not talking about the siting, I'm not talking anything, nor the fact that we have a whole huge hockey program around here and a lot of competition for in demand for ice space. And then you get into, is it ice, is it hockey, is it, it's complicated. But I will say, just on a lot of this stuff, even beyond siting, the feasibility would be, I would say, you need the entire facility donated in the and you might be able to support the operations. So, you know, which doesn't say it can't happen. I'm just saying, you know, in terms of, you know.
My understanding, Amy, from the commission meeting was that the folks, you know, behind the ice rink said that they would find ways to finance this. This was not the commission's obligation, as it were. George said that.
That's correct. We approved the usage of the temporary rink at Wayne for next season.
Which is a half rink, right?
Correct. It's not a regulation size rink. So that's been approved. And then we have channeled a message to them that if they want to consider another location for a permanent rink, that they would need to come to us
They have to
with
do
that.
the work.
Correct.
So you're putting out, if people want to talk about it, it's out in their court, and then they'll come to you.
Exactly.
Right,
And a part of that plan would be, to your point, how do you finance it? Yep.
I wouldn't even say finance. I would say, how do you pay for it?
Okay.
So.
Gotcha. Okay.
Also not on the agenda, and we're not going to talk about it today, is that Simpson and Company has come up with a fair number of innovative ideas for what could be done at Kiwanis Park. So they've been very busy doing that. This is probably not the right meeting for that, but just so everybody knows that, is aware of that. The next thing is scheduling the next meeting. I haven't talked to my colleagues about this, so they may disagree. I don't think we should have a meeting just next month, just to have a meeting. I believe the next meeting should occur when we have a first draft of the master plan. Yes,
I'm
I'm sorry,
we're
Amy.
ahead of ourselves because we have not, I mean, no money has been identified
Right.
to pay these guys to
Yes.
develop a master plan. So you can't be saying, get a draft when there has been no
That has to
Can-
happen also.
first,
I believe it's the
before
next.
people engage in work.
Right.
Right? So,
And we will put that on the agenda for the July 9th Park and Rec meeting
Right.
to see if we can allocate funds. I'd like to just chat with you for 2 seconds afterwards, because I think you've done projects for the town in the past, am I correct?
Right, right. And really, I should say that Bill and I are here as sort of private citizens today, interested in Kiwanis,
Right.
interested in the town and so on. And we know that if at some point the town allocates money for study and professional services to do with Kiwanis, we would like to be considered for that. We recognize that it doesn't necessarily mean we would be awarded a contract to do that, but we just want to express our enthusiasm for it, but we're here as private citizens.
That's correct. Okay. But wait, I think, it's totally up to you when you have next meeting, but I'll get these guys on the agenda for the 9th.
For the
that way-
commission, for the commission
for
meeting.
the
yes,
commission meeting,
yes, okay. And we'll decide at a later date, if you don't mind, when the next meeting is for, for this subcommittee. And at least, both of you have been more than fair
Yeah.
with your time. So thank you.
hey, can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
I look at Kiwanis and it's like, there's a super big picture, which is master planning. And then I'm speaking to John, then there's the short term, because there's some things that probably could be not particularly expensive enhancements that can maybe be considered for your next year's budget. So, are we just doing big picture here, or it's also like on the little stuff? I know people have said small things like, chairs for the beach or the
Yes,
vending
that's different.
machines or repaving a basketball court's not huge. So, I mean, maybe it can be viewed at like the great vision and then how we make it a little bit better with some capital requests or work from you guys. I mean, is that fair to look at it like that?
Sure.
Because the great
Like,
vision
so-
takes a long time.
Yeah, as far as like the community garden, she was moving, she was gonna have to spend some money on a different type of soil test just to make sure. And at that time, with the master plan being discussed, she said, we're gonna put it on hold. She's got great interest from the community,
Mhm.
but not wanting to put money into something that might be moved to a different location or decided not to be in the park.
Right.
So that's why that's on hold. But that could be one of those things that might be able to, there's a limited number of locations.
Yeah, it's not a big,
that
huge
works.
line item, but you'd have to run water to them, right?
So she was when all the time that we've discussed the community garden, it was going to be all funded
Yeah.
privately.
Yeah.
She had people that, we gave her estimates on how much we thought water would cost, that
Right.
type of thing, but
Right.
we didn't have any money in budget.
Yeah, I just, sorry, I appreciate the small nature, but I wouldn't want someone to front run where you wanted to have that community garden. If we're gonna have it in there, I would want the master plan
Yeah.
to be done. And the basketball court repaving, do we continue to want a basketball court there at all? So I know that they're small dollars, but the whole point during the last budget process was not to do these projects until we had a master plan so that we decide, is that part of the overall plan or not? And then we go and we fund those projects. So I would not want to start doing the little tiny projects because that was the whole purpose of not funding it this budget cycle.
Right. Mhm.
And
with
the
that-
whole point was to say, let's get a master plan. What do we want on this master plan? And then we start, beach chairs is one thing. Beach chairs and vending machines, those are very little items. Those I don't have any issue with. Repaving a basketball court or deciding where all the community gardens are going to be
Oh, yeah, definitely.
should be part of the master plan.
I think I was speaking more to just small enhancements
Okay.
that, come through. But again,
Basketball court
it's not
repaving,
your
I
next
wouldn't wanna
budget.
Be putting in that
Mhm.
either. So.
I got you. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to open the floor to any comments from anybody from the community. Please keep them to 2 minutes or less. What, I'm sorry?
You'll have to have them come up to the table though. So,
Oh,
and that's when they
yes,
should.
so
speak
please
into
come
the
up to
mic,
the table if you have comments. So,
and they can stay there.
and please state your name first, of course.
Good morning. I'm Lauren Motley. I'm one of the neighbors. My house is on the back of Kiwanis Park. I'm the yellow house on the hill. I felt I just wanted to come and just provide some feedback as a neighbor. We use the park every day. We walk our dog throughout there a couple times a day. I just kind of wanted to start with, like, I feel that the park is mainly serving the interests of 8 to 10 weeks a year in summer. And I would just so encourage this committee to make improvements that would make it more suitable for 52 weeks a year. And so with that, I feel like I want to come back and encourage this committee to move or remove some of those existing buildings. I know that you had your conversation. It just is such a mismatch down there and makes it look scruffy. I'm also a little bit concerned about the idea that came out of this meeting about potentially building more mismatch within the park of like a community center for kids. I'm not against the idea, but now we're throwing in another building, or your other idea of, well, let's throw in a national hockey rink building. I mean, please bear in mind, we use this park all the time and it's already a mismatch. Do we want to throw even more things into that? I would also just want to suggest, again, like potentially improvements to the trail park system, making it a nice circular route, enhancing it, going all the way the perimeter of the park, incorporating the river as a feature, maybe connecting it all the way around would be a really beautiful improvement that would last the 50 weeks, 52 weeks a year. That's really my main observations. I just want to encourage, like, make these improvements. I'm very in favor of it. Where my husband and I are been attending all of these meetings. He's the British guy that you met last time. We really do want to make this a nice park and a nice feature, but just not make it scruffy and mismatch.
Thank you very much.
Comments?
Are there any other comments? I don't see anybody's hand raised.
I got 3 minutes.
Okay. Tommy.
Betty Labostic. I'm going to keep it very short because Lauren already mentioned everything I was going to about the usage of the park. The walkers, the people around Kiwanis use it, even though you folks may not be there to see it. I could see them from 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning, walking the dogs. I echo Lauren's observation. The walking trail, particularly where the little dog bags are, very rocky, hard to walk on that. So if we could clean that area up. And several years ago, we did a walkthrough with the tree warden and a bunch of people. And there's one big tree that's covered in vines. And the discussion was to open the park so you could see all the way down to the beach. And that one tree, it's opposite the nursery school. It really takes up a lot of space there. It's alive, it's not dead, so that's what's keeping it there. And I'm just wondering if it could be pruned and the other trees down there also. But regarding beach chairs, if you can, please get them sooner than next year, because the lounge chairs have dwindled down. It looks like less than last year. And a handful of sand chairs that are all the way down to the ground. So if you come in, somebody my age, or there are seniors there, there really is no place to comfortably sit. And we brought this up several times to the Park and Rec Commission. So Deona said it's possible to do that if you can just buy a dozen chairs stackable, just so we could sit up and sit in the chairs on the beach. That would be very helpful for this year. So thank you very much. It was a very interesting meeting and my first time hearing about the community center. Does anybody have an idea of square footage? Are we talking something like the Lapham Center, a two-story building?
I can tell you, it's an idea. It's
It's an
not,
idea.
like I said, it's not in any place in our budgets. I don't see it going in the budget at the present time, but it's one of those ideas that maybe 10 years from now.
Oh, okay, so it's
Yeah,
not gonna be like that St. A's building that's not going anywhere.
Yes, this is the first socializing of that idea at all. It might not get any traction at all.
Well, thank you very much.
Right, Betty, thank you so much, as always. Thank you. And thank you, everybody. And how do we close this meeting, John?
You asked for a motion to adjourn.
Okay, a motion,
Motion.
okay, second, and all in favor? Okay, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
really,
Hank.
for-
Thanks.
Thank you.